Well, since I could not make it to class today, I decided to post my video to YouTube so you could see my part of the presentation. So this is my attempt at being tech savvy. Hope it goes well. I am going to discuss the history or the early divided kingdom in history. So we know that before the kingdom was divided, Solomon, through David and Saul, had established a powerful kingdom that extended from Egypt to Mesopotamia and the Euphrates. Well, when Rehoboam, Solomon's son, became king, he decided against the advice of his elders to increase the load that his father had on the Israelites rather than decrease that load. This led to the division of the kingdom. Rehoboam took the south and Judah, and Jeroboam was king of Israel in the north. Now, you would think that Israel would have been the more powerful kingdom. This was because they had the best pasture land, they had access to the Mediterranean, and the increasing trade and growth that was going on in that area. They also had the trade routes from Egypt to Syria running through their land, and Israel was just larger than Judah. So you would think that Israel would have been the most powerful nation between those two, but in fact that was not the case. Judah was the most powerful. Now, in the very beginning of the early divided kingdom, Egypt invaded, and but they never really were anything but a nuisance to the kingdoms. They didn't affect the power distribution at all. And we see the power of Judah over Israel in Abijah, who is the king after Rehoboam. He was a fighting man, and he took the city of Bethel, which was in Israel. So you see the kind of the beginning of the establishment of power of Judah over Israel. Also, we see this in the king after Abijah, Asa. He makes a treaty with Syria while he is at war with Baasha, who was the king after Jeroboam in Israel. So Asa and Baasha are fighting, and Asa makes a treaty with Syria, which distracts Baasha and allows Asa to make some fortifications to some cities on his border. So we see that treaty with Syria strengthening Judah and also allowing Judah to strengthen some of its own cities, and that's kind of the beginning of the power of Judah over Israel. Now this power remains the same until King Ahab takes the throne in Israel. Now, between King Baasha of Israel and King Ahab of Israel, we have three other kings. Their names are Elah, Zimri, and Omri. But throughout their reigns, the power of Judah over Israel remained the same. So, Ahab, who was notorious for his marriage to Jezebel and being a bad king who did more evil in the sight of the Lord than any other king in Israel, he is actually the one who disrupts this power of Judah over Israel and kind of turns it the other way around. We see this in his marriage to Jezebel, who was a Phoenician princess. So that established some relationships with Israel and Phoenicia. We also see this in Ahab's victory over Ben-Hadad of Syria. He did not kill Ben-Hadad. He let him live under the condition that Ben-Hadad give him some rights to trading in Damascus. So this also strengthened his economical power. We also see that Ahab had some military power when the Assyrians were moving through the land, and a coalition rose up against the Assyrians of different nations, and Ahab sent the second most troops to join that coalition. So we see that he had some military strength. We see that Ahab had maybe more power than Judah at the battle of Ramoth Gilead. After the battle of Karkar, which was the battle that they fought against Assyria in the coalition that was formed. After that battle, Ahab decided to fight against Moab, I'm sorry, and he actually convinced Jehoshaphat to join him in battle, and not only to join him, but to be his decoy in battle. So that is definitely an inferior role there, and we see that as the power shifting from Judah to Israel. Perhaps Jehoshaphat was willing to do this because his son had just married Ahab's daughter, which was something, by the way, that the Lord did not approve of. So maybe he did this to try to establish relationship with now what would be his family. And he continued to do this throughout his reign, and this continued to contribute to his weakness. Also, Jehoshaphat's son, Jehoram, while he was in power, the Philistines attacked Judah. They destroyed Jerusalem and killed all of Jehoram's sons except for one, the younger son. And then after him, the king of Judah was Ahaziah, or Ahaziah, not exactly sure how to say that, but he was in power, and he kind of followed Jehoshaphat's example of trying to collaborate with Israel and establish relations with them, and he was actually in battle with Joram, king of Israel, and he and the king of Israel, the king of Judah and the king of Israel were both in the same place at the same time, which was Jezreel, and they were killed by Jehu, who took the throne of Israel. And Jehu taking the throne of Israel marks the end of the early divided kingdom. This kingdom was one that was, in my opinion, sort of dark. It had much struggle. We had nations like Syria who were a threat to at least Israel throughout the whole time. And then at the end, we see Assyria being involved a little bit, which would later on continue, and Assyria would eventually overthrow Israel. But I will leave that for the next person to discuss. Thank you very much. And that is all of my presentation.